Well, Mel, Denise, Angela.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Steve,
Yes.
I was wondering if today is going to be more of a healing one because I was going to have someone else drop in if who's low energy, if it is going to be more of a healing one.
Um, yeah, so we're going to go through the warm-ups. We're going to we'll do some seated stuff with some acupuncture, which will take a little bit. And then we were just going to do five treasures.
Okay,
All right.
perfect. Thank you.
All right. So let's go to movement around the eyes. And nose. Ears. Thyroid. And so, Angela, will this person need to kind of be seated a little bit more?
Yes, I would think so.
All right. Okay, because we can incorporate that in.
Okay.
Because even this stuff, really, what we're doing right now, you could be doing it seated. So, kidney 27. Thymus. And kidneys themselves. Actually, we take a bit of time doing the acupuncture points, and they're all seated too. So, and then our lymphatic. So even if you wanted to be, say, seated doing this part with collarbone, this is still going to be effective. We'll stand up for some of the other parts. But definitely collarbone could be done seated. Yeah, if somebody is recovering from illnesses or weak, they should be trying to not expend energy, but instead doing things to bring energy into the system. But this lymphatic work is really important. So the collarbone could be done sitting down. the sides of the neck could be done sitting down. And often we might find that this jawline here, this bone, might be a little tender because there are glands there. Again, that may not be functioning to their peak capacity. And then we can do this one also. And a lot of people just doing lymphatic will just do the pull down technique on this one. And then we want to get to the back of the neck. So again, you could be doing this standing up if you want. So massaging, especially those muscle tendons that are kind of large, that are on either side of the brainstem. And good to be continually rinsing out any tension in these areas. And then squeezing and releasing brainstem itself. And then we go to the pecs. So pretty much we can do those sitting down also, if we wanted to. So the sore point areas first. The padding underneath the armpit is really important. And you can put the arm up for that. And then that spiraling massage. And for the last three areas, I'm going to stand up for those because probably better to do those standing. So we go to the abdominal area. we do the sweeping in toward the center line here. So probably I would say for the second half of the lymphatic, and then we go to the stomach meridian part. You could sit down for the first half if you're weak. Standing up for the second half is going to be more beneficial because this second half is trying to encourage the upward drainage. And then we go to the crease. And of course, you could do this sitting down, but again, going to be more effective if we can do either a figure eight or a swaying side to side to activate that ingrown crease. And then back of knees, which again you could do sitting down with your legs, straight out in front of you, but still this is going to be a little more effective. And then yin-yang padding I would do standing up. So I remember a little more time on the joints, especially this inner elbow is good for heart and lungs. Collarbone to the other side. So this doesn't take very long. It's only really maybe about 3 minutes or so, 3 or 4 minutes. So even if you're weak, I would suggest doing this part standing up. And this part is going to be really good for any kind of recovery, especially. So the belt. Down the outside, which is gallbladder. So this is good for our spring work. With gallbladder and liver working together. Up the front, which is stomach. On the belt again. And the back of the legs. And then up the inside. Spiraling. And then if we've stood up for a while like that, we could go to some work on the kidneys. And we do that seated anyway. this one in particular anyway. And so with this one, we're patting like this, the top of the knee, and just alternating. And what we're imagining we're doing, so again, best done with bare feet. What we imagine we're doing is we're nailing the lower part of the leg, the tibia fibula, into the earth. So this is going to ground the kidneys and also ground the rest of us. And so we do this alternating nailing for a little bit. And even though kidneys are winter, we all need help with our kidneys pretty much year-round anyway. And then after we do that, and we feel that we've grounded ourselves in, so we really feel we're kind of nailed into the earth, then we make sure our palms are warm. So if they're not warm, we always warm them up like this. And then we do a spiraling motion on the knees. And so we are pouring that chi from our palms into the knees, but the knees here, right here, are connected into the kidneys, into both kidneys. So as we do this massaging, so we go clockwise, then we'll go counterclockwise. Doesn't matter which one you do first. What matters is really kind of focusing on feeling the heat pour into the knees and then travel upward into the kidneys. And as we're doing this movement, we want to really feel a midnight blue color filling up the kidneys. So one way and then the other way. And so kind of 9 times rotations in each direction would be minimum. But typically with our rotations, you know, we can do up to 36 on any of these kind of rotations. Spend a little more time in these areas. And again, since our kidneys really could use some general help all the time, it's something that is not a bad idea for us to do some practices year-round. Winter is when the kidneys need it the most. So really feel that heat pour in, really kind of feel it go through the femur and up into the kidneys and warming the kidneys. And then that midnight blue color is what we're focusing on. Okay. So let's go to our movements. So also, so if you wanted to do wise owl looks backwards, you could do that one sitting down. So 70–80% of our stretch, we stretch our eyes, look behind us. Remember, if we're sitting down, we always want our posture to be good. I used to do a lot of work at assisted living places. Let's do rhinoceros. And this is kind of the, you know, the routine we do, but most people didn't have the strength to stand up for very long during class. And so we still did the movements, we just did them seated. We could also do this one seated. And then looking in the directions. Probably do snake body seated, but I'm going to stand up. So snake body. But again, if you're weak, do the best you can with snake body sitting down. Our big round hip movement. And then other direction. And then we go to hula hips. So if anybody has a relative that, again, maybe in a wheelchair or is using a walker and really can't stand up for very long, I do have a video of that seated practices for pretty much 50, 55 minutes. It has a little bit of standing with balance work and strengthening the legs a bit. So let's do knees. And then flexing knees. So remember, if you're weak and you want to do these, have your feet further apart. And if your balance isn't very good, having your feet further apart is also going to be the way to go. So ankles. And again, this ankle motion would be good because doing this one, again, probably have to be a little bit stronger to do that. So let's go through some acupuncture points. So we're doing some still for springtime, which I'll say we'll do probably a little bit longer, maybe until we get to the equinox. So large intestine 4. But these 4 gaits that we're doing right now that are typical for spring would actually be a pretty good set of 4 points to do on a more regular basis. Because what we're doing with these 4 gaits is working with these 4 is helping to clear a lot of the meridian system. And liver 3 you could do like that, but if you're not supposed to do that forward bending flexion motion because of any diagnosis of osteopenia or osteoporosis in some of the vertebrae of the spine, you don't want to really do that curving forward at all. So look at 3. And then we could do some extra work on gallbladder meridian also, because gallbladder and liver are working together. And remember, the gallbladder meridian is going up the outside of the legs. So an important area is the outside ankle. And all we're doing is massaging it like this, just the same way we do the kidney 1 meridian. So it's just, you're just massaging the entire ankle. Don't worry so much about the direction you're going in. Just, go with whatever feels correct. And then we're adding in working with one of the more important points on gallbladder meridian, which is in the foot here. And also remember that with our 6 areas that we do with lymphatic, there is actually one more area that typically people aren't working with, but especially if you do have some edema or any kind of swelling around the ankles or the foot. So this whole back of the foot, so the heel is, the bottom of the heel is here. So the whole sides of the heel going into the ankle area. So it's a space of like this. And that is a very good area to massage, and is the other lymphatic flow area that is pulling the lymph out of the foot. So then it can next move up to the back of the knee, and then into the crease, and then into the abdominal area.
Is it like on each side of the Achilles tendon?
Yeah, so basically, and you could even do the tendon itself. Think of it as cupping that whole back of the foot here. So you're kind of going from the ankle across to the other ankle, but then think in terms of you're working that whole area down to the heel also. So you're kind of massaging this whole back of the foot. And that's a lymphatic flow pattern that is also there, but usually we're doing the lymphatic work standing up, so doing this part would be kind of more difficult. So let's do the gallbladder outside of the ankle bone on the other side. And then the same rubbing of the whole back of the foot. So typically, when people do have some swelling in the ankles, it's usually mostly on one side. And so if you notice that, you want to really get to it immediately and start doing this kind of massage. You could also do padding of foot, leg, and both sides, of course. And then wiggling toes is also going to be kind of important because that, again, and you could do massaging like this. So I'm just going to go back to the back side just for a few seconds here. We'll do that. So all of this is work to get, again, these systems flowing, especially the lymphatic, since the lymphatic is so important to keep us healthy. Okay, so let's go to spleen 6. So remember, that's the 4 fingers, inside of ankle, the little finger stops. And I usually use my thumb, but you could use any really finger on spleen 6. But also when we do spleen 6, we're working with kidney and liver meridian. And if you wanted to, you could sweep up, say, the outside like this, because that's spleen. And so while we're stimulating spleen 6, we could also be drawing upward on the spleen meridian. And then the other side. We just want to feel and imagine how we're asking the qi to flow. Remember, when we use our palm, this lao gung point is also always really important as sort of a magnetic connector to help to utilize flows. And since we're going into summer with heart, one really important point on the heart meridian. So remember, the heart meridian is going to be going little finger and this way on the yin side of the arm. So if we go to the wrist, there's a tendon right here. And let me get a little closer so you can see. So you'll find a little indentation, especially if you let your wrist relax here. There'll be an indentation right here. So that's heart 7. And so that is a good point to hold. Helps to regulate the heart channel quite a bit. And again, it's just going to be, you can feel the tension. So if you go to the outside of the wrist here, you'll feel that tendon that's right here. So you just go to the inside, and you're on the creases here where the wrists are. And you're just massaging that. And so there's 3 points on the wrist. This one's heart. If we go to the center of the wrist again, and where the crease is, we can feel a little indentation there. And that is where pericardium is. And so we can work with that because that's the heart protector. So typically in the summer when we're working with heart, we want to work with the heart protector also. A lot of people in Ayurvedic will use one palm. They'll go to that Lao Gong point on the pericardium meridian. And again, you can find that very easily by just closing your fingers. I'll come closer again. Like this. And right where your middle finger and ring finger meet right here, that's going to be that pericardium meridian Lao Gong point. And usually you can tell too, because if you kind of make your hand like this, there's a really big indentation right there. So that point is another point you could do what we do on kidney 1, this sort of sweeping around motion. And the center of your palm might start to warm up. So one of the purposes of the pericardium, remember that's a sac that's around the heart. It's the heart protector. And if the heart has excess heat, especially in the summer when we're getting overheated, when it's too hot outside, this kind of motion is going to be really helpful to pull the heat out of the heart and bring it into the palm. So we can do both sides there. And then don't forget, so you could do, 36 rotations here. And typically you're going to do it in this direction from thumb to little finger like this. So let's find our heart 7 point. And again, if you just kind of let your palm fall down here, you find that tendon right here. You go to the inside of it, and that's heart 7. And then for points, let's finish with stomach 36. So always a good point to add in because it gets rid of 100 illnesses in the body. And so this is the kind of routine that I would do when in any kind of recovery, is to really spend time doing this. We'll do a little bit of the 5 elements after we do stomach 36 here. And stomach 36 is going to be helpful because it's going to bring more energy into the legs and the lower part of the body. So again, if we're having trouble with any kind of edema around the ankle. Stomach 36 is another point that's going to be useful. And even if you're weak, we did a little bit standing up. We did a whole bunch sitting down here. And then we could finish with, again, some 5-element movements. And so we start off with water element. And so with water element, we're imagining we're holding that Tai Chi ball. When we inhale, movement goes up. When we exhale, movement goes downwards, so the ball is a little further away from the body here. And here we want to really focus on moving the water. So we're mostly made of water. And because this is the water element, we're also working with the kidneys. And so we want to really feel that what our palms are doing is encouraging the flow on the inhale upward of all the fresh chi from the earth. On the exhale, rinsing the stale chi back into the center of the earth, and really focus on the kidneys and the kidney meridians to have this flow go through those areas. So inhale, we move the flow upward. Exhale, we move the flow downward. Inhale, upward. And again, we're feeling and imagining that energy from the earth is pouring up, bringing the fresh water in, cleaning all the 6 stale parts and letting the dirty water go down the drain, and really focusing on the kidneys and the kidney meridians to clear this out. And we'll just go quickly through all 5 because we don't have a lot of time left. So, and again, if you're weak, you don't want to be standing up for very long. So awareness goes into the kidneys. We want to go into the emotional feeling of the kidneys. So at that so-called negative side, we have fear. We want to try to see if we can feel what that fear feels like. Usually these so-called negative emotions have this constricting sort of effect on our awareness in those particular spaces. And then we want to move over to the so-called negative side, which is having courage, which leaves no more room for the fear. And see if we can feel what that feels like. We're just breathing normally. We're focusing on the emotional connection into the kidneys. And then we go into the neutral center where we don't feel the push or pull of either courage or fear. And it's from there we ask that body, mind, spirit brings in the water element to work with us in whatever way is most beneficial for us right now. And so water is winter, and water creates wood, which is spring. So for the wood movement, we have kind of a pumping action that goes on, which when the legs sink down, the arms lift up. And that's the inhale. This is the exhale. Legs lift up as palms move downward. I'm just going to move this chair out of the way a little bit. So it's Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. And here we feel we're pulling the wood energy up to again clean all the cells and organs, but we could also just focus on liver and liver meridian. So inhale, wood energy pouring upward. Exhale, pouring down and cleaning out. Inhale, pour up. Exhale, pour down. And then again, let's just have our palms face the lower dantian area. We're facing liver, wood element. And we can go into the emotional body again. And on the negative side of the wood element, we're going to feel anger, frustration, impatience. So we may or may not be feeling one of those right now, but if we are, we want to tune into that, see how it feels. But then notice we can shift our awareness to the so-called positive side where we feel kindness, gentleness, patience. And then going into the neutral center is where we invite into the body, mind, spirit, the wood element to work with us in whatever way is most beneficial for us right now. Which all these elements are always doing this, but by making a conscious practice of it like we are here, it becomes even more beneficial to move that energy and to kind of say thank you. So wood creates fire. So the fire movement is going to be, our awareness goes to the point on the sternum here where there's that dent. And again, knees go down, thumb and fingers come together. Inhale, looks like this. Exhale, arms are at a little bit of an upward angle on the exhale. So the inhale, we're coming into the small center. On the exhale, we're expanding out into the room with any of our sixth scale energy. So the inhale brings us into the center where that heart flame is. The exhale expands us outward to release sixth scale energy. The inhale brings us back into our center again. The exhale expands us again. Now, say you were starting to get tired. You could sit down for the part where we're doing the meditation where we go into the space of the fire elements. So that's going to be the heart. And typically on that negative side, we're feeling the feelings of hatred. And we may ourselves not feeling any feelings of hatred. But again, there's a lot of hatred in the world. We can tune into that, see what that feels like, and really kind of see how that feels harmful. And then we go to the other side where we just feel unconditional love. And we let that pour into the space, leaving no more room for the hatred. And then we go to that neutral center where we don't feel the push or pull of either hatred or unconditional love. It just feels very still and peaceful in this space. And this is where we invite into the body, mind, spirit, the fire element to work with us in whatever way is most beneficial for us right now. And so fire creates earth. So for earth, again, we're expanding, thumbs and index finger coming together. We're looking with our eyes upward into the Earth's atmosphere. And the movement here is going to be, as we inhale, we sink down a little bit and feel the movement go down. And then we feel the movement come up from the earth. So exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. Let's do one more. Exhale, inhale. And for this one, there's a part two. So part two is going to be, you could do it two different ways, but a way that's going to be really good for the crease here is to just fold in like this with the hips and feel that you're connecting with the earth atmosphere. Come back to the center. We're back into our center. Connect up again to earth atmosphere and center of the earth. Come back to center. Let's do one more. So this is the inhale. This is the exhale. And again, we're going to come back to here. Again, if you feel the need, you could sit down. And we go into that earth element, which is the spleen here, which again is connected into the lymphatic system. And in the emotional body, we're going to first go to the feelings of anxiety and worry, seeing how that feels. Noticing that anxiety and worry only really exist in the future. They don't exist in the present. And then we want to go to the opposite. So just feelings of calm and relaxation, leaving no more room for the worry and the anxiety. And then to the neutral center, where we just feel very still and peaceful. And it's from that point that we invite into the body, mind, spirit, the earth element, to work with us in whatever way is most beneficial right now. And so in Chinese thinking, the earth element contains all the other elements. And then metal element is last. So for the metal element, we want to inhale down to the small point on the sternum, and then do 3 cleansing breaths to begin. So it's a quick exhale, and then we inhale to the small point again, exhale, and it's that ha sound. And you should feel your lungs jump up a little bit. So inhale into the small point, exhale, and then we're just going to breathe normally. So inhale to the small point, exhale, inhale, exhale. And again, you could sit down to do this part. Inhale, exhale, and then we can just let our palms rest. We're We're going into the area of the lungs. And on the so-called negative side, we have sadness and grief, especially grief. But then you could follow grief into sadness and even depression and some things like that. So grief is our primary thing that we're working with, our feeling. And again, just see how that feels. And then we want to go to the opposite end of the spectrum. And we feel courage and laughter and happiness and joy, leaving no more room for the grief. And then we move to the neutral center, which feels very still and peaceful. We don't feel the push or pull of any emotions. And it's from there that we ask the body, mind, spirit, and the metal element to come in and work with us in whatever way is most beneficial for us right now. And we can be also having the feelings of gratitude. So what we did today was a good routine to do. Again, if you're feeling a little weak, you feel like you need a little more work on clearing the meridian systems. So thank you for coming to practice together.
Thank you, Steve. And I hope everybody has a nice rest of their day.
Yes, everybody enjoy. See everybody next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Melanie.